If you have a local business, you know how crucial it is for customers to find you on Google. But, one of the biggest and honestly most common mistakes that holds businesses back is something called a citation. So in this explainer, we're going to demystify them and show you exactly how to get them right. It really all boils down to this one question. For any local business that's trying to show up in search, especially in that all-important map pack at the top, trust is the name of the game. Google has to be completely sure that your business is real, that it is where you say it is. So, how does it actually build that confidence? So here's the game plan. First, we're going to cover the absolute basics, what citations even are. Then we'll get into why consistency is completely non-negotiable, why quality beats quantity every single time, and I'll lay out a clear action plan for you. And finally, we'll see how this all fits into the bigger picture of modern SEO. Okay, let's dive right in and start with the foundation of it all. So what on earth is a citation? Well, in the world of SEO, it's actually pretty simple. It's just any mention of your business's core information online. And at the heart of every single citation is what we call your NAP. That's your business name, address, and phone number. Think of these three things as the bedrock of your entire online identity. So where do you actually find these things? Well, they're kind of scattered all over the web, creating this digital footprint of your business. You'll see them in the obvious places, like Yelp and Yellow Pages, on your social media profiles, but also on sites that are specific to your industry, like Avo for lawyers, or local sources like your Chamber of Commerce. They're also gathered up by these huge data aggregators, companies that basically collect business info and then feed it out to hundreds of other websites and apps. Okay, so we know what they are. Now let's talk about what is, without a doubt, the single most critical piece of this entire puzzle: consistency. And I'm telling you, getting this right isn't just some small detail. It is the absolute key to building Google's trust in your business. A great way to think about it is that every single citation is like a little vote of credibility for your business. So when Google is crawling the web and it sees dozens and dozens of these votes, all saying the exact same thing about who you are and where you are, well, that sends a really powerful signal that you're a legitimate, stable business. So this brings up a super important question. If all of these votes need to be consistent, what are they supposed to be consistent with? The answer is your Google Business Profile, or GBP. You have to think of this as the single source of truth. Your GBP is the master record, and every single other citation out there on the internet must match it perfectly. And when I say perfectly, I mean you have to be incredibly precise. Look at this. On the left, we have the master record from the Google Business Profile. And on the right, you see these variations that look so minor to us, right? ST versus street, or using the pound sign for a suite number. To you and me, that's the same thing. But to Google's algorithm, this creates confusion. These tiny little inconsistencies are red flags that weaken your trust profile and can absolutely sink your rankings. Now, it's really tempting to think, okay, I just need to get my business name out there as much as I possibly can. But this is not a numbers game. In fact, not all of those votes we talked about carry the same weight. It is truly, truly about quality over quantity. This table here really lays out the hierarchy. Over on the left, you've got your heavy hitters, your strongest votes. These are listings on government sites, your Chamber of Commerce, the major data aggregators. These carry a ton of weight. Then way over on the right, you have these really weak votes from spammy, low-quality auto-generated sites. 100 of those weak votes will never, ever equal the trust that you build from just one strong one. And there's actually one more layer to this quality thing. It's not enough for Google to just find a citation. We call that crawling. For that vote to really count, Google has to value it enough to add it to its main database, which we call indexing. Here's an easy way to think about it. A crawled citation is like Google seeing a flyer for your business. An indexed citation is like Google taking that flyer and putting it into its official filing cabinet. You want to be in the filing cabinet. All right, enough of the theory. Let's switch gears from the what and the why to the how. Let's talk about a clear, step-by-step strategic playbook for building a really powerful and effective citation profile for your business. So your plan should really focus on three main categories. First up, your core citations. These are the big ones, the must-haves that every single business needs, no exceptions. Second, your niche citations. These are specific to your industry, and they prove your expertise. If you're a lawyer, you have to be on Avo. A contractor, you've got to be on Angie.
And third, your local citations. These are super relevant to your specific location and prove to Google that you are a real part of the local community. So, what's the magic number? How many citations should you actually aim for? Well, this chart gives you a pretty good ballpark based on how competitive your market is. But please remember the golden rule. Quality always beats quantity. A business with 80 perfectly consistent, high-quality citations is going to run circles around a business with 300 messy, low-quality ones. So use this as a guide, but always focus on strength, not just volume. Okay, let's wrap things up by zooming out a little bit and putting all of this into perspective. Where do citations really fit into a big, comprehensive local SEO strategy today?
The absolute best way to think about citations is that they are the foundation of your digital house. Now, a solid foundation is never going to win you any design awards, right? But a cracked, inconsistent foundation will make everything you build on top of it completely unstable. Citations alone won't rocket you to the #1 spot, but without a clean, consistent profile, you're going to have a really tough time ranking it all. At the end of the day, citations are just one piece of a much larger ecosystem. Your citation profile works together with your customer reviews, your website's SEO, the links you get, the content you create. Everything is connected. For example, a consistent NAP profile reinforces the location that's mentioned in your reviews, which makes those reviews even more powerful. It's when all these signals line up and are strong that you really start to see amazing results. So, what's your path forward from here? Well, you've basically got two main options. You can go the do-it-yourself route, manually building out your listings, or using some fantastic tools like BrightLocal or Whitespark to help manage the whole process. Or you can choose a done-for-you service, hiring an agency or a specific vendor to handle all that tedious work of building and cleaning up your citations for you. Honestly, both are totally valid paths. It just depends on your time and your budget. All right, let's just quickly recap the most important takeaways. First, a citation is just a mention of your name, address, and phone number, your NAP. Second, your Google business profile is the master record that everything else has to match. Third, consistency is always more important than quantity. Fourth, build your strategy around those core, niche, and local citations. And finally, just remember that citations are a foundational trust signal for Google. So that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. After everything we've just covered, take a second and think about your own business. When it comes to your online identity, is your digital foundation built on the solid rock of consistency, or is it built on the shifting sands of old, outdated, and inaccurate information? The answer to that question could be the key to your local visibility.